Welcome everybody to today's webinar, How to Host an Online Event Using the Virtual Event Page Touchpoint. I am your host, Zach Napolitano, Splash's Director of Customer Education. I'm so excited to have you here for today's lesson, where we'll be learning all about Splash's most powerful and versatile virtual solution. For those of you who are new to Splash or new to our virtual products, the Virtual Touchpoint makes it unbelievably easy to plug in your favorite streaming tech into Splash and create a beautiful branded experience while automating data capture and prioritizing security. Today, we have select customers using this feature, but we're rapidly approaching their general release date. Before we dive in too deep, let's handle some quick housekeeping. Since you're viewing this in On24, the first thing you need to know is that everything you see on the screen can be resized, minimized, and moved around. So if there's something you prefer not to see, including me, feel free to exit out. If we lose internet connection for any reason, just hang tight. I'll be back in a hummingbird's heartbeat, I promise. And finally, if you have any questions today, I want to hear from you. We save plenty of time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to hit that Q&A widget early and often. I believe it should be to the left in your learning console. Okay, let's take a look at today's agenda. First, I am going to give you a quick overview of the challenges the Virtual Touchpoint solves for and how it fits into Splash's larger virtual solution. Then we'll take a look at the full guest experience from registration to live stream and every step in between. After that, we'll head into our product demo, where I'll show you how easy it is to create and design your own virtual event. And of course, at the end, everyone's favorite live Q&A. Now, let's talk about virtual events. So whenever I'm teaching customers or a new Splash employee about a new product, I always begin by framing it from the perspective of what challenges it's solving for. And when it comes to our Virtual Touchpoint, three things immediately jump out to me. The first is design. So the Virtual Touchpoint empowers you to embed your streaming platform and create a fully branded and immersive virtual environment. This is going to make your event stand out. It creates a far more compelling experience than just sending out a webinar link. The next is data. Because each guest is provided their own unique virtual URL, the check-in process is fully automated. You do not have to lift a finger. So not only do you know who attended, but you also know how long they joined for, and that data will automatically sync to your Splash guest list and even your CRM and marketing tech platforms. And finally, scale. So it's one thing to host a great virtual event, but making it unbelievably easy for your entire organization to host their own creates a whole new level of value. Virtual Touchpoint will allow you to democratize virtual events in your organization because it's so easy to use and so easy for program leaders to templatize for others. Okay, now let's take a quick look at the three main ways to plug your virtual tech into Splash. The first, and this isn't something we're going to be discussing today, but it's worth noting, is Splash's native webinar integrations with Zoom webinars On24 and BlueJeans. While these integrations don't leverage the Virtual Touchpoint, they're notable for automating webinar setup and data collection. This is great for teams that throw a ton of webinars. If you're interested in learning more about these, I include some links in the resources section of your console. The next two options both leverage the Virtual Touchpoint. The Embed option, the one in the middle there, allows you to design and manage every part of the guest experience in Splash, including the actual live stream, which is embedded on the Virtual Touchpoint. There's also a link to stream option that also leverages Touchpoint, where guests are going to check in there, but they're going to be redirected to the event, which is going to be occurring natively on that streaming or webinar platform. What's crucial about these two options is their flexibility. Virtual Touchpoint is compatible with all the major virtual event and streaming platforms, but it also won't exclude you from using any of the emerging platforms that are constantly innovating. So I mentioned the link out. When would you use the link out instead of embedding? Well, one would be if your virtual event tech isn't embeddable. So for example, we're using On24 today. This cannot be embedded in other places. So if I wanted to, I could use the virtual event Touchpoint to link out to it. The other is your event has features that would only be applicable in a native environment. So while lots of customers are already embedding Zoom meetings, for example, on the Virtual Touchpoint, those who want to leverage breakout or polling would be best served to use the link out feature. And then just a quick thing that's worth noting. So Zoom is very popular. Webcams, screen share, chat, those all work perfectly in the Virtual Touchpoint. Some other platforms we would have to look at on a case-by-case basis, determining on what they're allowing for. All right. So before we get into our live demo inside the product where I show you how to set this up, I'm going to kick you over to a 2-minute video that's going to help you understand the full guest experience. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes here. Virtual Event Page Touchpoint is a feature that empowers you to create a branded destination for your virtual events and measure the results. Let's take a look at the guest experience, which starts with the pre-event sign-up and culminates with a live stream. The journey begins on your Splash event page. Guests explore the content and RSVP for the event. Once the RSVP is submitted or a ticket is purchased, you'll immediately receive a confirmation email. The confirmation email contains a guest's unique live stream URL. This will be used on the day of the event to access the stream. This unique URL is the only way the guest can view the stream. This feature enables the host to gate their virtual event to only registered guests. Fast forward to the day of the event. The guest will receive one or more reminder emails, again containing their personal URL. If the guest opens their link more than 30 minutes before the event start time, they'll land on a branded countdown screen, indicating the stream hasn't started yet. Up to 30 minutes prior to the event, the guest link will open the check-in screen. Check-in requires just a single click. Then the stream becomes visible and viewing will start as soon as the event host goes live. The stream looks fantastic, both on desktop and mobile. It can be viewed in full screen and is often accompanied by a live chat. If the guest shares a link with a friend, the new person will see a link used screen. This will direct the friend back to the registration page so they can register for the event and receive their own live stream URL. After the virtual event, the host is able to update the live stream embed to an on-demand recording, hosted on platforms such as YouTube or Vimeo. Because the host knows who attended the live stream and who didn't, they're able to send a post-event email to their no-shows. And just like with the live stream, the recording is gated by the check-in screen, so the host has a record of each person who has viewed their content. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. And again, that was the middle option there, the embed option of the Virtual Touchpoint, not the link to stream option. The embed is the primary and probably the most exciting use case. And again, because we know Zoom is super popular these days, it is worth noting the 3 different solutions integrating directly with Zoom webinars. That's a native integration, the ability to embed a Zoom webinar or Zoom meeting, or the ability to link out to a Zoom webinar or Zoom meeting. Okay, great. Now that we understand the guest experience, let's put on our host hats and actually set this up together. And this is going to be live. So I'm going to demo this live for you. So let me just initiate my screen share. We'll give this a 10 Mississippi count to make sure that my screen share is visible within the On24 console. You may be able to hear my puppy Leo that we saw earlier on the slides yelping in the background a little bit. Okay. Cool. So I think everyone can see my screen now. So here's my virtual event, classic splash page with our registration experience. We're going to look at the event overview screen. So when we're talking Virtual Touchpoint, you will notice something new on our event overview screen, which is the Add Touchpoint button here. And this is going to allow us to add a virtual event page touchpoint to this event. Beautiful. Now I'm going to click into this, And this is where I'm going to customize my experience. Now, that logo is looking a little big, so let me update my tools to be great logo. Nice. Okay, so the first screen you see here is the live stream one, right? We're going to customize this together in a moment. Also worth noting, we can customize all the screens we saw earlier. Our check-in screen, our link use screen, and our countdown screen. Okay, so let's go to live stream. And the first thing I'm gonna do here is I am going to just freshen up this background a little bit. So click on the background and hit I could update the color if I'd like to very easily, but I'm actually gonna go with the background image because I think that's gonna transform the aesthetic really beautifully. So I'm just gonna grab a background image that I love here, drop that in, and you can see that's looking amazing, right? That is what's going to surround my virtual content. Now I am going to update my embed here. So I'm going to head into the virtual content area. You can see we have the choice of embedding or linking out. We'll go with embed today. Click into embed options and you can see a few things here. So if I was going to be using Zoom, I just pop in my meeting ID or webinar ID, both work, and include my password if it is a gated one. Now for Vimeo, show you how easy this is. I love using Vimeo. We're going to be using Vimeo in today's example. You just put in your Vimeo ID for your Vimeo Live, hit enable chat if that's what you want to use, save your changes, and check that out. Embedded beautifully in there. We've got our countdown within Vimeo and our interactive chat component. Doesn't that look great? And just to show you one other, let's do the custom embed. So popular one might be YouTube, right? So we'll go to YouTube Live and we'll just grab a live video together to show how easy it is to embed something. Maybe we will do this relaxing, calm music one. So what I would do here is just come down to my share option, go to embed, grab my embed code, come back to my virtual touchpoint, and pop in that embed code. And there it is. And you can see when a guest came here, they would see the video playing live. So that's super easy to get our embed going. Now, if you had like a Slido, for example, which is a Q&A polling board, you can include that embed code as well to have both embeds going at the same time. So I'm just going to come back here, get rid of my YouTube, and go back to Vimeo. Nice. Okay, excellent. So we have our live stream here, and what I would do is basically come here and customize each of these screens respectively, uploading my background or changing the color, just as we saw earlier. This is going to be really easy to do. Same exact concept that we saw though on the live stream page. So I'll spare you the time of going through each of these, just knowing that it's important to make these look great because they are each a part of the attendee journey leading up to your live stream. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I am going to head back and just go to my confirmations area. There's something important that I want to call out, and just something you saw in the video earlier, which is directing your guests to their unique viewing URL. So how does Splash do that? Well, I'm sure a lot of you are accustomed to one of our default dynamic tags that we include in our emails, which is our event URL one, which links somebody to the event page. To produce a unique URL per attendee, we just change this to virtual event URL, and we'll say something like, join us on Vimeo, right? So we include this in our confirmation message. And then the other thing that I like to do, and this is maybe even more crucial because, people usually join with their most immediate thing that's in front of them, which is a reminder email. So you can see here I have two drafts, my day of and my 1 hour away email. And I would do the same thing. I would update my call to action here to include my virtual event URL and my button title. And of course, subject line can be, very action oriented. So as a best practice, I'm sending out my normal reminder sequence that I would probably do for any webinar that I'm doing or any virtual event. The only difference is I'm not sending someone a direct Zoom link. I'm sending them the virtual event URL to produce that unique join link. Yeah, it's that easy. And coming very soon, when a guest adds this event to their calendar, their personal virtual event URL will also be in that calendar attachment. One other thing I want to call out is the guest list. So let's fast forward a little bit. We'll pretend that the event already happened. When I go into my guests tab here, you are going to see a few things. The one thing I want to call your attention to is the virtual event URL. So if for some reason somebody's not receiving your email or they deleted their email, you have each person's unique virtual event URL here, and you could one-click copy that so you can provide it to them manually. The other thing I want to note, and we saw this a bit in the video earlier, when a guest checks themselves in and when a guest leaves your stream, we are capturing those check-in and check-out times, so you could determine how long the person was on your virtual event for. So in this example, we have 3 folks here who joined. One person was a no-show. Their status is attending because they never checked themselves in, and therefore they don't have any data for that. Okay, so that was a super quick demo, but hopefully that showed how easy it is to get started. It really comes down to a few crucial things: adding that virtual touch point, embedding your content, cultivating the experience for each of those states leading up, and making sure you're distributing your unique URLs to each attendee through your confirmations and reminder emails. So I will end my screen share, and we will return back to the question and answer. So we have plenty of time here, about 13 minutes for Q&A. So use that Q&A widget if you have any questions. We also had a few that were pre-submitted that I can get to, and I prepared a few slides for them. But if you would like to ask me a question, it is now your time to do that. So use that Q&A widget. I will start out though, and you can use that for comments as well. I'd love to hear from you. This is my first time presenting Virtual Touchpoint to a large audience outside like an individual training. So I will start with a question that's pre-submitted by Terry here. And he asked, what is the difference in data between the webinar integration and using the embed? It's a really good question, Terry. So I'm actually I'll go back to one of our slides from earlier. So we have our native integrations up here, Zoom notably on 24 and BlueJeans, versus when you actually embed into the Splash Virtual Touchpoint. What's the difference? The difference in data is not much. You are still going to, regardless of the solution you're using there, you're recording the check-in time and the checkout time. So your bases are covered. You're going to know who was there, how long they were there for, and if you're connected to one of your other platforms like Marketo, Salesforce, you name it, we're syncing that data back. So really no difference in data, to be honest with you. Okay. Taylor asked a really good question, and this is with the mindset of scale that I mentioned in our intro. Are we able to save the states as templates so we can use the customized states for any event we create? So Taylor, the different states, not yet at least, wouldn't exist like on the top level where you could transfer them from event to event, but you can save them on what's called the theme level. So when you're saving a custom event template, if you've designed your virtual event page and all those different states to be branded and look amazing, those can be set so you don't have to, so every time you use the theme, they're already set there for you. Same thing with your email template, right? The confirmations and the reminders, you could templatize that reminder sequence in the confirmation so you don't have to do that every single time. Ramiro asked, I joined 7 minutes late. Would the next step be, what would next steps be for a video on demand page? Awesome question, Ramiro. So we haven't covered video on demand, but Virtual Event Page Touchpoint solves for that as well. And you could use either the embed or the link out option. So in this instance, if you wanted to make it so that you're understanding who actually is checking out your on-demand content, if you use on-demand content as a method of lead capture, you can use the exact same register to view experience, only this time you would be embedding an on-demand recording, maybe on YouTube or Vimeo, Twitch, rather than streaming live. So it actually works exactly the same. You might just change the call to action on the registration page to say, like, sign up for on-demand or register for on-demand. Awesome question. Okay, keep those questions coming. We have a few others that were pre-submitted here. This next one, oh cool, I kind of alluded to this one a bit earlier, which was how do we get webinar data into our CRM, or virtual data into our CRM? So thanks, Steph. I was able to put a slide here. So what's interesting when this big pivot to virtual started happening was that our customers were very accustomed to all their registration data going to their CRM because they're typically integrated already. But then they were hosting their virtual events and they weren't accustomed to people joining, and there not being like the manual check-in process of swiping in the Splash Host app to check people in as they walk through a door, right? So they were losing out on that data. So when you're using Splash Virtual, whether it's the Touchpoint or the native integrations, the beautiful thing is the check-in process is actually automated, so it's easier than in person. And if you are connected to your Salesforce, HubSpot, Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, that data is going to find its way in there automatically too. And Ramiro asked, really good follow-up question, is the mobile embed, or is the embed mobile friendly? And the answer to that is yes. Keep those questions coming. I love seeing them. There's no such thing as a silly question. Also accepting comments and feedback in there if you have it. I will continue along though with our pre-submitted questions. And the next one comes from Anj, and she asked, how do we prevent people from sharing their Zoom link? Really good question. So when I talk about Virtual Touchpoint, you probably heard me say this earlier, I stress the fact that it is both a branded experience, but also a gated one. So the only way guests will be able to access your embedded stream is by signing up and using their unique stream link that is sent in your Splash emails. And what we're actually able to do is we're able to determine if that link has been shared. You'll see a link use screen, which you can customize here. And that will make it so that that person has to register and get their own streaming link. Is live integration only possible through the Virtual Touchpoint? Can you confirm? So, love to know, Jeff, what you mean by live integration. But if you mean automating the check-in processes, knowing who showed up to your virtual event, the two solutions would either be Virtual Touchpoint or one of our native webinar integrations with Zoom on 24 or BlueJeans. So those are that when you integrate natively like that, the webinar still happens in those platforms, but the check-in data is getting sent back to Splash. If you're just doing, Jeff, a simple embed on a Splash page, which is very, very popular, and it's kind of the old way we did things, that's great, but you're not necessarily going to know who showed up to view that stream. If you have any follow-up questions, let me know. I hope I answered that. I did just now to the best of my ability. Rachel asked a great question. How do I choose whether to link out or to embed? I think I mentioned this a bit earlier. So a few options, Rachel. Sometimes it's just going to be comfort, but other times it's going to be based on, is the event tech you're using embeddable? Not every platform that you use provides an embed code. The one we're using today on 24 isn't embeddable. Therefore, I would link out. Sometimes it's the big factor to me would be the amount of audience participation you're looking for. For more of your classic webinar or something that's more presenter driven, you may the Virtual Touchpoint is going to work great because you could still leverage a lot of the interactive elements. But if you're doing something like where it's a round table and everybody's talking and sharing their screens, or you're going to be doing breakouts or polling, link out is probably your best option. So my two main factors is it embeddable in the first place, and what level of audience interaction are you using? And are the features you plan to use, do they work within the embed? Ramiro asks, Vimeo has its own name and email intake option. I imagine we will no longer need to enable this. Yeah, Ramiro, I was talking to someone on your team earlier today about this. They mentioned the same thing, and that is true. So you do not have to gate Vimeo anymore. You can just simplify the check-in experience by embedding that Vimeo right onto Splash. And your coworker even mentioned including the Slido next to it, so you just double up on your iframe there. Okay, any other questions? I think, get one other pre-submitted one about on-demand viewing, so I can mention that in a moment. But please let me know if you have any more questions. We do have about 4 or 5 minutes left. Okay, Doug asked, what kind of audience interaction is possible when you embed Zoom in Splash? So chat still works. Guests can turn their webcam on, guests can see the presenter, guests can view screen share, guests can share their own screen. So quite a few things are available there. I do know that polling isn't available, and breakouts. And breakouts is only a Zoom meetings feature. It's not a Zoom webinars feature. I'm speaking exclusive, that's not a Splash thing, that's a Zoom thing. Taylor asks, if we embed a Zoom meeting, would the event participant be able to unmute themselves to ask a question to the host, or should we link out? Great question, Taylor. They can mute and unmute themselves to ask questions and participate, and they could even have their webcam on. Something I consider if I'd be hosting a virtual event and using the Touchpoint as a host is how much control do I want to exercise over that guest experience? Because from that hosting console, there's a lot we can disable if we don't want our attendees doing certain things. We can disable chat if we want to. We can mute people by default, right? So it's a balance that you're kind of able to play with from Zoom, and that translates to the embed. And we have a help documentation on all features for Zoom that are available via the embed. Okay, I think there's someone on my team commenting, thank you. Absolutely, I should call that out. So if you go to our help center, and this is available, I'm linking out to it in our resources right now, you will find the full documentation on both the virtual touchpoint and all things Zoom, because we know Zoom is a hot topic. And this will not only show you how to do that stuff, but it shows what features are possible in Splash with the embed and which are not, where you'd want to link out. Ramiro asks, these private links, if someone shares the link, will that person gain access? Yeah, we mentioned this one just a bit earlier, so let me show you the slides, Ramiro. Everyone is giving a unique string, a unique streaming URL, and we are able to recognize if that link has been shared. If that link is shared, they will see a link use screen. So this is not shareable. If you'd like to do something shareable, I would recommend not using the virtual touchpoint, just embedding your stream onto a Splash page. Of course, the trade-off there is you wouldn't be gaining full data as you would when you're gating it. Any other questions from our audience? Got about a minute and a half left. I do have one other pre-submitted question if no one else asks a question. Ramiro asked, man, Ramiro's on fire today. Thank you, Ramiro, for being so in the mix here. Does Splash do post surveys? Yes, we do have the ability to do post surveys, leveraging just any Splash page, hiding the different content blocks and updating your registration form. And I believe next week, this is really exciting, actually. I promise everyone this is not a planted question. Thanks for the softball, Ramiro. We are releasing our first survey theme to our public library, making it unbelievably easy for anybody to do a survey. Okay. Last question. What are your best practices for post-event? I'm thinking of making the webinar available on demand. Thank you, Summer. Best practice, this is something that we do and we've been doing for a long time now, is creating a hub page. So featuring all of our upcoming virtual events and all of our past ones on a Splash hub page. This is a single landing page that organizes all of those, making them easy to link out to. We do have 3 hub themes in our public library, so feel free to check those out and get started. This is a great practice. And the other thing we mentioned earlier, Virtual Touchpoint, you are able to make it so people have to register. Guests have to register in order to view your content. This is a great way of capturing leads and understanding who's actually engaging in your content post-event. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the questions. For more information on the virtual event page Touchpoint, check out the resources console. To catch my presentation on Splash and Zoom, register for the Austin Virtual Splug event on August 27th. That's in the resources. We'll be talking Touchpoint quite a bit with a focus on Zoom. Life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid for now, this is goodbye. On behalf of everyone at Splash, this is Zach saying mahalo.